to the information. This claim suggests that the Smithsonian Institute has proof of the Ark but is keeping it hidden. Would the Smithsonian or our government keep this information secret? Possibly. This isn't the first time the Smithsonian Institute has been accused of covering up discoveries. Throughout the 1800s and on, there have been accounts, and some in magazines and newspapers, of the Smithsonian being involved in finding and removing strange discoveries, such as giant skeletons, some with red hair, in caves and tombs, and in a written record of finding Egyptian mummies and artifacts in the Grand Canyon. And later, when asked about these accounts, the Smithsonian claims no knowledge. Of course, the people from these accounts could have claimed to be taken, could have could have claimed that they were from the Smithsonian and using that as a cover for their activities. But the Smithsonian goes out of its way to uphold the status quo of history and science and lends itself to distrust. The other fascinating aspect to the story is the claim by Duckworth of a mummified body in a white translucent sarcophagus, probably alabaster, found in the Ark and removed. Initially, they thought that this was the body of Noah. Examination of the body found no belly button. Uh, this would suggest that this is the body of Adam. What would Adam's body be doing in the ark? Well, apocryphal texts stated that Noah was told to take Adam's body and leave it on the ark. Islamic sources have a variation of this story also. If the Smithsonian or our government has these artifacts, it is unlikely that they will ever go public with this knowledge. In 1959, Turkish captain İlhan Durupınar found a canoe-shaped boat-like object in pictures taken from a Turkish Air Force mapping mission, which they had done for NATO. The site of the object is 18 miles south of Mount Ararat and 2 miles north of the Iranian border. In 1960, an expedition went to what would later be called the Durupınar site, named after the Turkish captain who found the images of the object. The expedition ended with the belief that the boat-like object was only an odd geological formation. A picture of the object and the expedition appeared in the September 5, 1960 edition of Life magazine. 17 years later, Ron Wyatt would come to the site and conduct 24 expeditions to search for evidence that this was Noah's Ark. When Mr. Wyatt initially went to the site in 1977, the boat-shaped object was even with the surrounding terrain, making excavating difficult. In 1978, when he returned to Nashville, an earthquake hit eastern Turkey in the area of the boat-like object, and the earthquake dropped the surrounding terrain from around the ark and the ark's like structure, making it more accessible to study. Ron Wyatt believed the object to be 515 feet long, which would be the approximate length of the ark in Egyptian royal cubits. He found petrified wood on the site. He found metal objects which seemed to be man-made. He believes that he has found evidence of its wooden skeletal superstructure. Archaeologist Bill Shea found an ancient pottery shard that has a bird, a fish, and a man with a hammer and with a headdress that says Noah. This pottery was made in ancient times from the people of the nearby village who would sell it to tourists. This sounds a lot like the account Josephus gave about people visiting the ark and then having gotten pieces to take home for good luck charms. Ron Wyatt believes that 15 miles away are the remnants of huge anchor stones used on the ark to stabilize it. In 1987, the Turkish government made the area a national park and built a visitor center for tourists, commemorating it as the site of Noah's Ark. More recent scientific studies suggest that the site is just an anomaly from the mud and lava flows through the years. Also, the Turkish government would probably rather have tourists come to this site, which is a lot more accessible and less dangerous than the Mount Ararat site. The ancient tourist trade in the area and in this area and others does not prove the site as authentic because the biblical story of the flood was known in ancient times, and villages in these areas wanted to create a way to make more income. They could just fake or claim a site as authentic. And any of these man-made or petrified objects in the area doesn't necessarily prove it's the Ark, because this is one of the first and longest inhabited areas on the planet. It wouldn't surprise me if you dug just about anywhere and found an object of some sort, let alone anything that was possibly a pre-flood artifact. I wouldn't rule out the Durupinar site totally, but I would have to say that it's a very unlikely candidate for the resting spot of Noah's Ark. Most of the claims still set upon Mount Ararat of today. Other mountains in different times had the name of Ararat, as well as Mount Kuti, which was mentioned by ancient sources as the mountain Noah had landed on. This means that there is a possibility that the real mountain Noah landed on has been forgotten or overlooked, which one day might lead to a new discovery, but so far the best evidence we have to go on is the pictures that have come from Mount Ararat over the years. From the 1970s on, there have been several pictures taken that suggest something is on the mountain that may be man-made, and is breaking up and moving along the mountain. Satellite images have also been used to get a closer look at what has been called the Ararat anomaly, which many thought was the Ark. Nothing conclusive can be ascertained by the images, and some have stated that the Ararat anomaly is a rock formation. In 2007, a joint Turkish-Hong Kong expedition claimed to find a cave on Mount Ararat with fossilized wooden walls. A sample was collected and tested at the Department of Earth Sciences in the University of Hong Kong. The test revealed it to be a petrified wood. The presence of petrified wood on Ararat is intriguing, and others have claimed finding petrified wood on the mountain. This fossilized wood isn't proof of Noah's Ark. It could have been from during the flood, but it also might have come from the Ark. If parts of the Ark have become petrified, it means that proof of the existence of the Ark on the mountain will always be there, waiting for someone at the right time to come and discover the truth of our history, and that modern man wants to ignore. Jesus told us that as in the days of Noah, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. People would be living their lives and be unaware and unconcerned of the destruction heading their way, but they will regret it. They will regret not being ready when it comes. Thank you for your interest in the show, and may God bless and keep you.
The Revelation 13 podcast is hosted by Mike Hopwood and is a podcast dedicated to the study of end-time events, news events, and ancient mysteries.